Oh, so that's funny. So it's legal to have it provided that you're leaving, but it's illegal to have if you're just there. We got another episode of Cannabis Legalization news today, everybody. A federal judge has ruled that many things in hemp might not be able to be banned at the state level. This is a case that I read out of Arkansas. It only came out on Thursday, September 7th, 3 days ago, and it lists like Delta-8, Delta-10, Delta THA, okay, and then Delta-6, and a lot of other psychoactive derivatives therefrom. So this is a law from Arkansas that a federal judge ruled on. That's our lead story. Did a federal judge in Arkansas just legalize Delta-8 and all other lesser cannabinoids, or is it more complex than that? And then after that, we have more stuff. It's football week, right? The Bears are going to be playing the Packers here when I'm off the show. Maybe your team's playing too. And if your team is playing, put it in the comments and then drop us a like and click subscribe. And then so we have a story about the NFL. We have stories out of Maryland. The Safe Banking Act might have some renewed vigor. We have a Name That Strain. We have a story out of Dutchie. They're in a lawsuit. And then we have some international news out of the UK. That is not just England, by the way. Let's get into some cannabis legalization news for the week that is September 10th, 2023. And then thank you for the silly music. What is that? What's the AI that makes our silly music, Miggy?
The Music Kitchen from Google.
Google AI. Thank you, Google, for continuing to make stuff that powers our salaries. Hey, Miggy, how was your week?
It's been a long week, man. I just lost another relative.
Seriously? You gotta be effing me, man. What happened now?
This one was expected. That was my grandmother. I mean, again, the call that I was going to get 4 months ago. That was her. But yeah, so it's been that kind of week. But
I haven't had a grandmother alive since 2001. But that's she had to have been up there. How old was she?
Oh yeah, she was like 90. But that's the thing too. It's like I'm at the age where I just realized that you don't count how old you are. You know what I mean? Like I just realized like
you ignore it.
Yeah,
you ignore it. Yeah, you ignore how. Hey, if you're tuning in and you're still celebrating your birthday, we got news for you in a few years. You'll quit doing that,
right?
Unless the AI makes everybody 30 again, and that is not a zero possibility. I'm not going to bet money on it, but in another 10 years, maybe I would.
So you think this new case, this filing is going to set like a precedent? Is that what you think?
Yes. You have to understand how these cases kind of work. And these cases work in such a way that, if you need any questions about these, you can go head over to cannabisindustrylawyer.com and I will make a referral to a hemp lawyer whose article we're going to have later. I like to stay on the THC side of the plant. This is a case that is predicated on how the specific definition of hemp is under the 2018, but not the 2023 Farm Bill. And because this is what they called a temporary restraining order or a TRO, it is not dispositive of the case. It just means they have a reasonable likelihood of the merits. And so they ruled on how they think the law is, basically. Sure. And so they said, how we think the law is, you're going to lose, guy. And then they set the trial for, when is the trial set for? Trial set for August 27th, 2024 at 9:30 a.m. By that time, this TRO may be dissolved because it could have been mooted.
So
if you have, go ahead.
No, I was going to say, so is it pretty much just saying, though, like the federal law is above local, right? Like you can't create a prohibition in a local state? Is that what's going on? Because I thought state rights things was a whole
no. And so the federal definition set the hemp definition for the interstate commerce in that particular agricultural commodity, and they defined it in such a way that it includes, it doesn't have an exception for synthetic cannabinoids, right? Because the court held, the definition extends beyond the plant to all derivatives, extracts, and cannabinoids. And the definition covers downstream products and substances if their Delta-9 concentration does not exceed the statutory threshold. That is what the judge is really zeroing in on. And so if you like THCO, Delta Delta-8, Delta-6, Delta-10. Yeah, and they reference THCO here. THCA, for example, I guess would also be exempted because it wouldn't be under this 0.3 Delta-9 THC threshold. Hemp was defined so broadly that now I think that in the new 2023 Farm Bill, which will probably get done here by the time they pass the budget, the government shutdown, which is kind of coming, right? Is that coming? The government shutdown, because it's government's financial year ends on September 30th. Because why not? And so there you go. And this court really zeroed in to the definition of the federal law and said, hey, state, you can't make a ban on these. You can make regulations more stringent on the farming end of it, but not banning the interstate commerce on the the statutory definition of it under federal law. And as a result, they preempted that law, and they said you're enjoined from enforcing it. The trial has now been set. So this is just a TRO, like getting the judge's pulse. If you can get a TRO entered, there's elements to be able to get it entered. And so they were able to. But it really kind of just goes to show that the statute says what it says. And I've been quibbling with some online attorneys on LinkedIn because they've got nothing better to do, I guess. And whatever, they're nice people. I'm assuming they're in DC, and they're pontificating over whether or not THC A or Delta-8 or any of these other ones are illegal because of what the DEA says. And I'm like, no. Routinely, these things have been granted, and now they can get trademarks, and now you're not allowed to ban them in your state. Just not yet, because I still think we're going to get a 1% total THC, and then it's a lot easier for law enforcement then and the DEA, but they have to change the statute.
Yeah. Well, I mean, we're on the slow roll, with like the talk about rescheduling, for the whole parity thing. This also covers like CBD and everything else too, right? Like everything derived from hemp, every cannabinoid, pretty much.
Correct. Every cannabinoid derived from the cannabis plant, synthetic or not, provided that it is Delta-9 compliant, is hemp. And that's what the court is saying they would rule on at trial, which is next August. This TRO, though, might be dissolved before then if the statutory definition of hemp becomes, I don't know. They just dropped the Delta-9 from the THC, and I really hope they change the 0.3 then, because of hemp genetics. At 1% allows for all the 18-to-1 CBD to THC ratios to be cultivated, and there's that.
Well, the whole line that divides the cannabis, marijuana, pot, whatever you want to call it, to hemp is ridiculous. It's the arbitrary number that's like, why? Well, people get confused very easily by is marijuana cannabis or hemp? Yeah, they're all the same. A rose is a rose.
But they're literally both the same. Like, it's the same effing definition, except one of them has a THC limiter. They are both the cannabis plant. Like, if you read the definitions of marijuana or hemp, because neither one are defined as cannabis under federal law, you will read the same thing, except one will talk about how much Delta-9 THC is in it, and the other one won't. Yeah. Oh, actually, it will, because of the change of the definition. It'll say it's over that line. It's the plant under the line, the plant over the line. What's the line? They aren't really sure.
One will put you in jail, the other one won't. I mean, this is people's lives. This is crazy how we just this slow rollout for legalization. I mean, I know a lot of people are anti-Schedule 3, but it's more, if it does happen, like, that's a good thing, I think. But I mean, of course, we want parity. We want treat it like alcohol, But
yeah, good luck with that. Luck with that. Hey, it is making progress. I mean, I still, the problem is you have a morality that's built into the cannabis plant for no real good reason other than some people don't like how it smells and the color of the people that were using it, or their cultures that, it might not have been their color as much as their culture.
Yeah. But which is crazy. Like, I recently went to Oregon and I bought weed there, and then we did a day trip to California. So I hit 3 legal states with different weed in my pocket. And it was just weird knowing that how we far we come along. You know, like it reminded me when I used to carry a lot illegally. You know, like
Hmm.
transportation wise. You know, and the paranoia and the fear that you have of getting caught versus when you're legal, you're like, this is nothing.
This is great.
Yeah,
This is just being like a normal law-abiding American.
that's it, man.
But then you have weed, so it's easier to deal with a lot of stuff. We have some studies from Normal later on in the show, and if you are on Facebook, please do hit us up at facebook.com/free THC. You will find some dank memes made by that man right there, Miggy.
And we apologize for the spammers. This is it's getting out of
Oh, we're
hand.
getting spammed. We are
Well,
getting spammed, huh?
in the Facebook group, but all the cannabis pages get spam, right? High times, I see it all. These bots that you know, we're the bad guys. Why? Because we stand by a plant and believe in it, and but yet we're like shadow banned and or your
I
page
wonder if that
deleted.
Schedule 3 will change that. You know, will
Oh,
Schedule 3 allow that to be more open? I hope
yeah,
so, but we'll find out. I mean, there are restrictions for guns and alcohol, but they're weaker, I think, than the restrictions that we face. I mean, especially if
yeah,
they're just talking about it versus uh, showing you how to do it, but whatever. Let's talk about the NFL. It is football
yeah.
Sunday. Hopefully your team is winning and you have not lost next month's rent at FanDuel. But if you had, former NFL star Ricky Williams is advocating for marijuana use as a treatment option for players. Medical cannabis coming to the NFL. Ricky Williams wants it. What do you think,
I
Miggy?
think it's a good thing, man. I mean, it's already proven analgesic, or you know, how do you say that word that decompresses your brain?
Analgesic, yeah, right. Well,
Analgesic.
that's analgesic. I think is the pain reliever aspect,
Mm,
the neuroprotectorant
yeah.
aspect of it. As after being in a very intense, I mean, soccer can be as well. You could take a header
Mm,
pretty hard,
yeah.
and then in football, there's a lot of getting hit. And here's the quote that Ricky Williams has told to the news outlet TMZ. I'd love to see cannabis as being one of those things that the trainer is walking down the aisle and offering to those players. We'd have authentic message, and our people are growing some really amazing flower that can help people feel better. That's just you know
But
hustling his brand, but still, yeah.
yeah, but it's still it's a wellness issue, right? Like, why can't you if people drink to take the edge off or whatever, you know, why not smoke or edibles or supposed whatever you're into, you know,
But
like
but this is a treatment option. I mean, you've seen reports or studies that when they would get injured and hurt, and they do get injured and hurt in this game, they aren't necessarily given something that is going to help them as much as if they were given an antioxidant, a neuroprotectorant, and an analgesics that also help with this
yeah.
pain, which is neat that they could be given cannabis instead of opioids. Because remember Walter Payton? I do. Because I was a kid in Illinois in the 80s,
Oh yeah.
and he played for the Bears. And then his liver gave out, I think, because of opioids.
And that's another example of the liver, right? Like not only are you like putting a band-aid on like the pain issue or whatever, but you're also internally making things worse. Whereas this plant, uh, however you choose to take it, will not. You know, it doesn't give you this toxic effect. It's a healing plant that works with your endocannabinoid system that is entwined with your nervous system and your bone structure. I mean, Arnold Schwarzenegger used to smoke and work out. You know, probably
Well,
still does. Who knows?
you should. People should still smoke and work out. It is important to keep your cannabinoids healthy. Your endocannabinoid
Yeah.
system should be healthy and doing well if you want to be doing well. We
Oh,
have
it's that
another
time.
interesting story out of Illinois,
It's that
and this
time.
one, oh, is it that time already?
That time.
My goodness, it is. It's that time. We have an interesting story from Illinois after this brief commercial interlude to remind you that it is 420 somewhere right now, specifically on the East Coast. So, one of the things that's happening today in Mundelein, Illinois, and you might not know where that is. It's near
Uh,
the border of Wisconsin, and you still might not know where that is. But there is the miracle in Mundelein happening today. This is being reported out of a lot. I'm not able to make it. This would literally be like a 3.5 hour drive for me to get to
Oh
the
wow.
border of the state with Wisconsin, where this would be. But music fans are going to Mundelein, Illinois. They're calling it the Miracle in Mundelein. It is the state's first cannabis-friendly open marijuana concert. I'm sorry, open marijuana consumption concert. Uh,
Yeah.
Here are the headliners: Cypress Hill, Stephen Marley, and Action Bronson.
So I followed some people, and I guess this is also sponsored by GTI, like Green Thumb Ministries.
Yep, it's right there. You can see it. Rhythm and
Oh,
Rise. Rhythm and Rise are the Green Thumb
oh,
Industries brands. Rhythm's their flower. Rise is their dispensary, I believe. And
interesting.
75% sold out. The Miracle in Mundelein. Rhythm, Sacred Rose, and Dayglow present.
It looked really relaxed. I've been seeing their Twitter feed, and they're posting pictures of people just smoking, just be non-criminals, like just
Oh
carrying on
man,
their day.
put in
Oh,
my birthday. Otherwise, I can't get in. But because it is 21 only.
mm.
J Rad's there. Joe Russo is almost dead. And Lettuce, Lettuce is going to be having some good sets. I'm not sure about Karina Reichman, but maybe she's good. Mitch Please, which is just a funny name for a band.
I don't know any
Um,
of those. Looks like they shot their load on Saturday, and then
well, yeah, Cypress Hill. J Rad is basically a Grateful Dead cover band.
oh, are they?
Lettuce is a fairly funky jam band. And I don't know the other ones.
Yeah, I don't know any of the second day ones, but the first day ones, of course. But I mean, it's a first step, man. This is it's a great,
Well, where name the last music festival that they had in your state? Uh, and so, like, put that in the comments. Have they had an illegal ticket sales, open consumption concert in your state that's like sanctioned and sponsored by the weed company?
maybe Colorado, but I don't think anybody else has done anything.
Well, I mean, in my state, I know that I'm not allowed to smoke in public. Like that's still a crime. Like they left that aspect in the law,
Mm.
and that's very often how it is. It might be how it is in your state. There's no, you don't have consumption lounges in Washington State, so very
Uh,
often, like that state will define what it means to use, and so sure, it'll be legal, but like it would be like legalizing alcohol and saying, but bars will be forbidden.
yeah, dude, it's so funny how this rollout of legalization happened out here. Where when it was medical, there were dab bars, there were marijuana markets, farmers markets, and nobody cared. And then when you put the rules out, then you give power to the police of things to enforce, and everybody's covering their ass and not doing any of the stuff that we used to do. Even events, it's got to be a private event, and uh, you have people's lives at risk. When they invest in a business, and one person, an entity, can take that power away, and that's why when we open our store, we're going to be looking at regulation and
Mm-hmm.
SOPs and all that stuff. It's all that fun, sexy stuff that people like to talk
It's
about in business.
compliance.
Yeah.
The compliance aspect, I used that. I slipped that into my most recent video. Check that out. It's about like how to do business in cannabis in 2024. Uh, anyway, or how to open a cannabis business in 2024. It's not the easiest industry, especially after the past 2 years. But with Schedule 3, it can be a more profitable industry. We'll see how the
Yeah.
regulations shake out, and who wins the election in 2024 is going to matter a heck of a lot with how those regulations are put together. Really, like no shit. I mean, if you have a DeSantis like administration versus a Biden administration, or even a Trump administration, more open question marks. There wasn't really anything that derailed in between Obama and Biden on it.
Yeah.
But his party tends to 95% of the time vote against.
Well, and then also the ball's rolling, right? Like right now, we got the health services, and we got the Justice Department, all contemplating this issue that could halt as soon as a new party takes over, or whatever. But you
The
know,
administration, so important. Like we've
yeah,
seen that doing this podcast. Like we
yeah,
watched South Dakota, we watched Virginia get Youngkined, and then
yeah.
it was a lot in South Dakota and Virginia, less in other states, mostly because most of the states that we report on are fairly blue. And Oklahoma did not pass. That's a red state. But
Mm,
then I think a lot of the reason why Oklahoma didn't pass was because they didn't want they left the West Coast and saw medical get fucked up and turned
Oh
into
yeah.
abuse. And
Yep.
so I think the industry even voted against it.
No, I totally agree. And you know what's unfortunate? It's not that this is legalization is not a red or blue issue, and unfortunately, we only have a two-party system. So to gamify it, really the blue ones right now are the ones that we need to get on board and put in leadership places, because the other side is not serious. The other side doesn't have real leadership or even like real business people, right? I mean, there's people hate when we talk about politics or like when I post some political memes, but that's how we got here, right?
Yeah.
It's the rule making and the gamified.
Interestingly enough,
Yeah.
it was the damn Democrats. The New Deal Democrats got this ball rolling in 1937.
Yeah.
And then it was the staunch conservative Republicans that kept it rolling in 1971.
Yeah, they just switched hats.
They just switched hats on this industry, on this issue. It's just ridiculous that they would do that. But I hate that sometimes the cannabis policy is that Spider-Man meme where they're just pointing at one another.
Yeah, no, 100%. And I mean that's politics in general, but it's like you just hope that, like, even though once in a while, like a Matt Gaetz, will have something that's like a good point, but you're like, but the rest of that comes out of your mouth is just garbage. Like I can't take none of you. None of you are adults. No one's ever had to like work a day in their life, survive, figure shit out. It's like a bunch of children being in charge of.
You just ask for votes. Most of us don't ask for votes professionally. Like, we have jobs or we start businesses, and so we have customers or clients. We don't have constituencies and voters. But if you consider the politician as the entrepreneur, it makes a lot more sense.
I mean, in a sense they are, but you also...
Their product is the vote. That's what they sell.
Yeah, but then they pander too much. That's the thing too, right? Like a lot of these guys,
they really sell that vote. Like it's almost like religion. And so, like with religion, they really sell that God. It's like, hey, don't forget to send us your book so we get your 10%. See you next Sunday. But with politics, it's more along the lines of, hey, hate those other bastards, don't you? And you do want to get this done, right?
And legalization could happen so fast if like people actually cared about like progress for their fellow man, citizenry or whatever.
They don't. They are making a Bachelor, like season 50 bazillion, whatever it's on, for old people. I mean, that's what they care about. They care about the Bachelor for old people. It's like that movie Don't Look Up, where everything's on Good Morning America, and they're like, we like to keep it light. And that's society. We like to keep it light. Everything's good. Profits are up. We report next quarter. I am going on vacation. Like, everybody's just trying to do their thing.
We pander to the bigger sect of things. I mean, I saw that with unions.
I don't know about that. Before we get into bashing unions, let's talk about Maryland.
Oh no.
I know. It was Labor Day last weekend. But anyway, Maryland's first adult use marijuana license applications will open for social equity businesses in November. Regulators have announced, and the social equity application window is technically already open in Maryland, which is a very interesting bifurcated system that they have in this state. They will have a 30-day application window for 75 dispensaries, 16 growers, and 32 processors, with some additional micro licenses as well in the mix that weren't up on that top line of the fold. But right now, if you are a social equity applicant in Maryland, the thing to do is to get qualified to be that. There is a portal before this portal. And so in 2 months, they will open the actual application, and they hope to be able to qualify all the social equity applicants now through 2 months from now. There's a portal there, and you give them the evidence, and they say that, you're good, which is fascinating.
Do you have to be a resident?
No, but it's a lot easier if you are.
Sure. But like
that, it's because they only give data for Maryland. They say, this is how your social equity. You can live for 5 out of the past 10 years in a census, nope, not a census, a zip code that has 150% of the state's cannabis arrest levels for the past 10 years. Good luck finding the data set. Bye. Here's ours. And they publish the zip codes for their own state.
Okay.
And that's what they're doing.
Interesting. So there's a little bit bias, but I mean, I guess it's pertained to
A
the
little
states.
bit. That's not a
Well,
little bit of bias. That's like
I mean, if
that's
it's
a needle to
open,
thread. It's
but if it's
open, like, and so you can start.
Mhm.
Interestingly, in Missouri, one of the ways to be social equity, live in exactly the same thing. One of those zip codes. Which is fascinating that it's 150% of the arrest rate. So if you're social equity in Missouri, it's a lot easier to prove, and based on the zip codes for the arrest records, of course.
right.
Go ahead and you can see if you can get in and get qualified. That's free, but then to apply is 5 large.
But like in Illinois, they created a map that included all the country, right? Whereas
Right.
Maryland's just saying, "Hey, only here we're counting you as points extra. F everybody else if you got arrested anywhere else."
A lawsuit may get filed. That person may not have standing to file the lawsuit until they apply, which cannot be until at earliest November 12th.
mm.
You heard it here, everybody. Cannabis legalization news, where we have annoyingly pesky but very accurate legal tidbits about the industry. Subscribe today,
Yes, please.
of course.
I'm so yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's cool to see Maryland and hopefully the whole East Coast lines up. And like I said the other day, I just went through Oregon, Washington, and California. You know, all joined states and all legal states. It's the amazing feeling of just the non trepidation, the non. Well, you remember at Hemp Fest, you know, I tell you, it's like so anticlimactic because everybody just smokes weed and then nothing happens. Like that's what I do on my daily. I smoke weed and do shit.
And nothing happens.
Yeah, nothing
Well, you
happens.
smoke weed and do shit. And if
That's
you
it.
like to smoke weed and do shit and are also eligible for being an applicant in Maryland, we have some templates for you. And so you
Nice.
can get our templates that we'll be using for our clients that are getting the full service um, at this website. We make it pretty abstract so that you can't get shut down by the man, which thinks that what I do is not right, and I don't agree because it's not about actually doing the licensed transaction for the product. It is about information about how you can have a license to do so. And anyway, that is something that you can get over at cannabisindustrylawyer.com because then we have been offering this to people on our email list. So go to cannabisindustrylawyer.com, fill out our type form, tell us about your cannabis business, and get access to our Maryland and other templates. All states need an application. So like we will have an application, Miggy. I
Right.
don't know when. I think it's after our conditional license. I think it's going to be very similar to Maryland. So like what they're doing now in Maryland, qualifying social equity first. Illinois
Mhm.
inverted that. So like we're still in our qualification period. We've already won, and then we gave them the evidence.
Right.
They said, give us the evidence and then do the lottery. That would have been okay. I mean, like we would have already had all your stuff and then we just would have given it to them, you know, and they would have been
Yeah.
like, yeah, your paperwork checks out. Thanks. You
Yeah.
know?
Well, and it's funny too, because they're doing it where in the paperwork it explicitly states they're not going to be looking at shit until the 28th or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Whereas I think it was New York where the faster you file your paperwork, which in general, you know, if you're first in line, it'll get first to whatever, but uh, not so much in Illinois' case. But what's up with
Mm-hmm.
this Garland memo? I didn't know you had a memo come out.
Oh, I did that last week. And so the Garland memo
Mm.
has not yet come out. That is the blog post that I did from LinkedIn last week. I didn't get a blog post this week for LinkedIn. Tune in next week. We have our financial model now done for debt and equity. And so we should actually kind of go over it and, maybe do it on a podcast like this where we go over our financial model, which could
Sure.
be horribly wrong. But the reason why it could be is because it's not based on actual P&Ls. Your company can still have a financial model, and you can work with your CFO to determine what the best allocation of your money is. That's one of the things that we do over at Collateral Base. And so
Well, and this is
Slobodan
why
helps.
you go. You need a team. I mean, this is not a, especially just the gray area. This market is. You know, you don't even touch the plant, and they took your Stripe account away. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like the hurdles and loops that people in cannabis have to go through is insane. I mean, it's one thing to be fearing like a trapper, carrying pounds and worry about like the law and shit. But the fact that we're trying to just be regular citizens, like pay the taxes, pay your bills, pay rent, or buy a land,
Right.
contribute.
Pay your
Shit.
bills and then go to the civil events. You
Yeah,
know,
yeah.
say,
No,
hey, Bob, how's your kids?
just that's it. Just be
Mm.
normal. I mean that. There was an article in High Times recently. They New York is starting to see the different consumers that come out. So here in Washington State, during the medical markets, I saw a lot of like older. Now I'm one of the older peoples that were at the store, and I always wondered like, where the fuck were you guys at when it was illegal? Like a lot of these people just
They were just as young as you buying weed.
right, but a lot of
It
people
was
don't.
25 years ago.
Yeah, but a lot of people don't partake in something if the law is a certain way, right? Like,
Or they don't admit to it. And then, yes, they don't want it. They don't want any trouble. Just
yeah,
trying to live my damn life. Yeah, soccer practice. And so that's one of the reasons why I think the opioid crisis was so subtle. It seemed
yeah,
like it was coming from a doctor. And then they had a large population that was now addicted to this stuff, which created demand, which then created an influx of completely illicit opioids, which then were sold to unsuspecting people.
well, and we
Sad.
have this great like drug ignorant like culture in America, right? Like, coffee, alcohol, cigarettes, these are all things that are illegal and they're all drugs. But yet we
Mhm.
gotta focus on THC and cannabis. Like it's this wild thing that makes you do dumb shit, which don't
Which means we should probably play Name That Strain.
all
And
right.
then we'll also do a study from Normal and Name That Strain starting now. There's the strain that you guys can name. Thank you for tuning in. This is where we play Name That Strain. You look at a strain on our play by play, and then you go, I think it's that. And then we
Yeah,
kind of say its parents, and then that is usually what we do. So
that's
this
pretty dope.
is, we did not have, okay. Hybrid, bred
Mm,
by cookies and seed junkie genetics.
okay.
Yep.
It's very
This is a cookies and seed junkie genetics hybrid.
very fluorescent. Very
And it
like
doesn't tell you its parents besides the geneticist. So something from cookies and something from seed junkies got together and made this breakfast
there you go.
named strain right there. Speaking
Combines.
of breakfast strains, there is a new study out of Normal. And that study out of Normal says herbal cannabis provides sustained relief to patients suffering from neuropathic pain. What a deal. This is out of Hamburg, Germany. Cannabis inhalation is associated with sustained improvements in pain and sleep in patients with chronic neuropathy, according to data published in the journal Medical Cannabis and Cannabinoids. That's good.
What? That's
I know.
wild. Get the hell out of here.
The pain scores decreased significantly from 7.5 on that chart that was invented by the Oxycontin people to 4.0. The proportion of patients with severe pain, score of over 6, decreased 96% to 16%. Sleep disturbance significantly improved, and these improvements were sustained for a period of up to 6 months. No adverse effects were reported other than mild Dorito consumption.
Seriously though, man. I know a guy. I don't know. Did you ever meet Timmy? He's a local guy.
Oh,
Oh, we got it.
yes, I remember
Nice.
Timmy. I hope to see him again one day. That is correct, sir. It is the Pancakes. It is a hybrid marijuana strain bred by Cookies and Seed Junkie, named after its delicious flavor and aroma, which happens to smell just like a warm plate of pancakes. When
Combined.
smoking this strain, you'll experience a flavor profile that combines the taste of buttered sweet berries and batter-like smell of pancakes. The high gets you relaxing head high, and they are short and bulky with golden brown and bright and frosty trichomes.
Yum.
Chronic stress and anxiety reported aspects for the medicinal benefits.
Nice.
That's what I think Schedule 3 is really going to be cool with.
Mhm.
You are going to be able to have actual medical studies that say, here are the benefits associated. You have only been able to study the harm. Can you
Right?
imagine that? Can you imagine if it was only legal to study the harm of heroin? That would be great. You
Oh,
know,
shit.
or Schedule 2. Like, all that shit, Oxy and stuff, that was all Schedule 2. So it
Mm.
just had a little bit of medical use, and they were able to do all that shit. And now cannabis will be down at Schedule 3. Hopefully, like a lot of it is going to be generic.
As far
It's
as the studies.
plant-based.
Mm.
Well, no, as far as so like there with the cookies joint with Seed Junkies, where they just call it pancakes. They didn't tell us the parents. They just said one geneticist, another geneticist.
Oh,
They
sure.
hybridized something, and so like that's like a trade secret kind of stuff. You would have to reverse engineer that by doing some mad science on it.
Well,
That aspect I could see, but
it's still like being close to like the Phylos concept, where you get rid of the names. Like there's no Blue Dream or Snoop's Dream. It's all phenomes and the terp combination, right? Like a profile. They tried doing that like the Leafly try to do it like a little descriptor like that, like the origins, the 7 strains or whatever, and like their profiles. And so maybe because but we're going to see, though, I think once Schedule 3 happens, is more like pill form, right? Like we've had guests in the show who's the nano emulsion technology, and the other what was that one guy who used to be we had one person that was a pharmacist or farmer.
but that I think there's going to be more for that for like the medical applications when it's
Yeah.
like literally medical applications. But the substance itself is going to be Schedule 3, and so I think there's going to be some type of grandfathering or exemption for the industry for like the raw cannabis plant.
Oh, sure.
Maybe you can't do some extractions. There's going to be some line that they put on there. Maybe vapes will be all right. Maybe they won't.
Well,
They'll probably be all right.
so I mean, there's going to be a solid foundation for the medical premise, right? Like how we talk about like the medicinal effects of like the plant, and like the what you just read on the pancakes were sleep anxiety or whatever. And I remember I asked you the other day, I was like, how do we, not everybody who drinks coffee is wide awake. Some people drink coffee and go to sleep, get tired. So our bodies are all kind of different. But for the most part, you can paint a brush and be like, this one will keep you up, indica sativa type thing.
Mhm.
Um, and I think something like that for like people who use can't RSO to like fight their cancer or whatever, right? There's different people who try in different ways to remedy themselves, and some of them work for some people. And I think that's going to be more of the studies and more of a go-to on how to like understand our health and how the plant can help us.
Boy, I hope so. I'm just glad that they can actually do studies if it is a Schedule 3, and that will be moving
Yeah.
forward. But I don't want it to become, and I don't see how it can, if it's just granted like generic status where no cannabis extractions, they're all generic. Bye bye pharmaceuticals. They would then have novel like delivery methods and stuff.
Hmm.
But where is the big aspirin? Seriously,
But
we're not
I
really
just,
worried about big Tylenol. I mean, maybe,
yeah.
but
But I think we all kind of like, because it is medicine for some or a good Friday night for others, because we want that parity with alcohol, right? Where I can go to a pot shop.
but how old is it? Like, how long has it been in the population? Is used in that thousands of years, and so like that's why I
Mhm.
wanted to be generic. It's even that patent that we used to talk about. We had a show on this podcast where we brought up patent 663507, and it had expired on that day we were doing the podcast. It was freaking hilarious. It was like in 2021,
Yeah.
weed is off patent. Like cannabinoids are off patent. Don't they have to be generic now?
I would imagine so. If this plant could just get off the schedule list altogether, that'd be the ideal, right? Because then there would be probably development of infrastructure when it comes to like the interstate commerce or whatever. But because of the stigma, like you're saying, how like with alcohol, it's something that we're for thousands of years, right? So is
Mhm.
prostitution, and look where that's at. You know what I mean? Like there's just a morality bullshit. I don't know how alcohol is the one that became the winner of all of them.
Yeah, but there's a difference between prostitution and like medicine. There just is.
Yeah.
One takes one person, the other takes two. Hey, speaking of how many people are farming hemp in Kansas, we have news out of Kansas, everybody. That's why you tuned in. Welcome to
Kansas.
Cannabis Legalization News, where we talk about Kansas very rarely.
Very.
Here's the news out of Kansas.
What do we got
Uh,
here?
guess how many pot farmers are in Kansas? Okay, now guess a lower number. It has fallen to 41. 41 hemp farmers in Kansas after a peak of 200. That is
Damn.
what an open market industry can do to you.
Yeah, 100%. But that's a fair market, right? Capitalism.
Kind of capitalism, but then also early entrance to the market and market flood, and then demand and tulips is how I would describe that. That is tulips in company speak, where it was arbitrary ebullience or irrational exuberance.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But and also too, I think we talked about this before. About when you grow with hemp, you have to grow with intention, right? Whether you're going to want to make hemp creek or you want to make CBD, or you're hoping you don't test hot. I mean, that's the other component to any growing hemp is, do you know what they're doing? Did they fail so hard because of they were all hot? That's what you got to look at. Why are these guys fail?
I think it has to do with supply and demand. They thought they'd be able to make all this money, and it turned out no.
Yeah, but
That's what I think it was.
Big demand. I mean, the fact that we get all our hemp from Canada for the most part, until these guys figure out how the market for, like, say, soybeans, levels out. There's a market for hemp like that. It'll be the same. It is a commodity. It should be considered one. But
we'll see, man, because maybe other people are having problems. We should do a small bumper, or we'll do a bumper on international, and we'll wrap up the show after this.
Okay.
Dutchie has countersued ScanSource over a $17.1 million unpaid goods claim.
Wow.
Yeah. Dutchie, the e-com cannabis company, has filed a countersuit against tech distributor ScanSource amid an ongoing $24.7 million dispute, and said that the software company didn't purchase goods it had ordered worth approximately $17.1 million.
That's some FU money right there.
12% annual interest rate. But if Dutchie is an e-com cannabis platform trying to do transactions and did all these sales and the deliveries were made and then didn't pay up.
Are they based in South Carolina? Is that why the lawsuit's filed out there? That's crazy.
No, that is an egregious aspect of forum shopping. That's what that is.
What?
Yeah, and so the forum shopping on that is really what has happened. And so you go and you try to choose where you think you're going to be able to sue for strategic reasons, and that is forum shopping. And so that's why, if they can get jurisdiction there, that's why I think they brought it in that. I thought there was an actual blurb from the article about it.
Neat. Dutchie admits the allegation contained thereupon information and belief. Dutchie admits. Oh wow, that's what they want.
Let's see, where is the challenge in certain custom applications?
Point of sale customer. No, that's crazy though. I mean, and again, these aren't touching the plant.
Right. No, these are making the transactions go by, I thought. Yeah. And so that was one of the reasons why the jurisdiction was brought where it was brought. But then I must have read a different article about it, because this one doesn't make that actual claim. And maybe I was actually reading the complaint. It's also still possible. I might have been reading the that aspect of it.
Still some big money for not involving the plant itself. Like the auxiliary businesses for cannabis have so much potential. It's a lot of money, and I'm surprised not more states are on board. Apparently, you don't like money in Texas.
They don't. They do, but then, again, they aren't selling. They aren't entrepreneurs. They're politicians, and so they sell votes. If that vote is what they're selling, and they're like, "I hate this stuff. Get rid of it," they'll be like, "Oh, you can trust me. I will say that our children are too important to allow cannabis to be able to be called that it's good." Right. It should just be, we should zero tolerance policy for everything, everybody. Stop breathing. We can do this.
Michigan got $1 billion in taxes so far. Jeez.
I guess.
Oh shit, what time is it?
It is about 3:50. It's time for some international news, is what I would say. It is time for some international news.
Find that one.
This one is out of MJ Biz, and MJ Biz reports that the UK committee is calling for wider access to unlicensed medical cannabis, which is, I guess the traditional market.
Yeah.
The UK's Home Affairs Committee is recommending that the government widen access to unlicensed cannabis-based products for medical use via the National Health. They don't pronounce H's
Oh,
over their service before the end of the current parliament.
I mean, it sounds like they have more of a supply chain issue there, and that would help.
They want Epidiolex, and they also want Nabalone and Sativex. There's just a lack of access to the NHS patients with genuine medical need. Only 5 patients received unlicensed cannabis this year. And then I have people that claim to be from England saying that they have licenses, wondering how they can get some investors. And I'm like, bro, you got to be lying. And then I read stuff like this. I'm like, yeah, you're totally lying. However, 89,000 unlicensed medical cannabis items were prescribed to patients through the private sector, meaning patients pay out of pocket.
Yeah. Unlike Canada, they can use their health savings accounts. But isn't the issue here though? Because the NHS is pretty much like England's or the UK's like medical system, right?
We
So
don't really have a national health in America.
mm-mm.
We should. We don't, but we should. We
Right.
have health insurance companies and then what they call the marketplace, aka Obamacare, where you can make purchases on it. We don't have like an agency. We have like HHS that'll tell you like how much dairy to put on your plate, and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But they don't say, here's how we are allocating our tax dollars for the health of the American people.
Right. Like they provide doctors and stuff, and
Yeah,
aren't they also
and
providing the cannabis too? Then, like
they
it's
they
within
would.
yeah.
Correct. And so but they aren't allowed to, even though in 2018, the UK rescheduled cannabis from Schedule 1 to Schedule 2. So take that, United States. The United Kingdom did it 5 years earlier. And then you go, oh, well, we'll go to Schedule 3. Come on.
Oh, we're special children.
Oh, yeah. Because you're American, the most awesome and kick-ass country that ever had eagles as its logo. You're
We got
special.
fireworks.
We have fireworks, bitch. The committee noted its concern about recreational cannabis in the UK, though. We are concerned that the harms for cannabis for non-medical use may pose, particularly in relation to the young people.
But what are
We
those
do not
harms?
believe cannabis should be legalized. Well, what are those harms? I don't know. I think the harms are the Yardbirds and Cream and Led Zeppelin. Maybe the Rolling Stones. Those are the harms,
Just like, did anyone die? Did anyone die?
And they have a link to the report. Drugs. This is a House of Commons report with recommendations of the government. The government has 2 months to respond. Tune in for cannabis legalization news in 2 months when our next international update on the United Kingdom's cannabis laws. 100,000 patients ain't bad. Maybe we should start. I'll start like fucking with them and doing like a British accent and like trying to research UK laws. That's what I would do if we already had like the cannabis dispensary open and I had cash flows. And I'm like,
Right.
we need more open markets. Well, what I'll just go find a whole bunch of people that are in Britain that want licenses.
Well, I think it'll be easy to convince. It always comes down to first also people taking a chance, right? Like in any of these markets right now so far, because it's like a gray, illegal issue. Until there's something in the books, then people feel safer. But I really do appreciate the guys that take the time to grow it now.
Yep. Let's see here. After that, I think we're just at That's Our Show.
Hey,
That's our show for the day, everybody.
307 people hanging out with us, and thank you guys.
That's freaking awesome. I'm just trying to give them something. Like, catch me over here. One of those deals. There it is.
Got the cannabis industry lawyer.
Yep.
I haven't done any new articles yet in a while on CLN.
Well, you have had some family stuff coming up there. I just shared on the chats, and on those chats, actually, I do believe become comments in like the more legacy streaming platforms.
Yeah,
that's where you can find our templates. There is a coupon code that you can get but we emailed it out earlier today. So you missed it. Get on our email list over at cannabisindustrylawyer.com by filling out our type form, and then go check us out. You know, where we got the facebook.com/free THC. See some of your sick memes.
Damn right.
And then on Instagram, it's Cannabis Industry Lawyer. Follow us on IG. I don't have one of those for this. Should do that.
You should.
One day.
Hey, hit me up. Send me an email.
Send me an email. And also, like and subscribe, everybody.